Welcome back, ninja community and persons that have just become ninja enough to view my materials for the very first time. Congratulations on becoming ninja enough to view my materials. Now in this video here, I'm going to be covering some more on the Nunchucku. I might get into covering some on an improvised weapon that can be utilized in a similar fashion as a Nunchucku, as it is not very practical for someone to be walking around with nunchucks in their pockets, unless you are a certain police force within certain countries that carry these, because they have specifically became one of the most feared weapons in the hands of someone who is who is skilled enough to use it, and for good reason. It has many applications, some of which is not in the public domain. So before I get into going over some of the techniques, a little more advanced techniques on a Nunchucku, I will go over my quality statement and disclaimer, mostly out of liability. So bear with me real quick as I run through it. And that, of course, is that the viewer understands my quality statement and disclaimer video. Additionally agrees that this video right here could be treated as is with ballistic protection, which in short means I don't have a seal on it, therefore I don't guarantee the techniques and or your application of the techniques. And if you're watching this video with the intention of using its content to commit a crime, that is additionally a crime. Actually, using my content in committing a crime is an additional crime. Also, the viewer agrees that this is my intellectual property that I'm allowing others to view. Okay, so if you haven't seen my other videos on instructions with the Nunchucku, you should probably check those out first, as I cover the very basics, beginning from here, working up to simple strikes, getting into triangles and adding spins. I cover some spins across the knuckles, give you the real application of how it's utilized in a fight. It's not just a tricking move, it has a real world application. For details on that, go check out my other videos. Okay, I also emphasize that once you learn some basic movements like a figure eight, that you start learning to move forward and backwards with it, just simple movements. That way when you get into doing your footwork, you are already familiar with or comfortable with the idea that you can move while you use the Nunchucku. Okay, at this point someone should get into working on their timing. Now timing has one definition within like the dictionary, but timing in a martial arts setting is a little bit different. Timing is mostly the contact that you make when you do a hit. That is the easiest way I could describe it. Sometimes when someone's been doing martial arts for a while, it becomes difficult to articulate. You come across a lot of different people with different native tongue, and sometimes words have different application within other languages, or they have multiple applications. So communicating or articulating is very common for there to be thinking outside of the box when talking to someone who has been in martial arts for a while. And oftentimes we'll just mix up words just because. Okay, so timing is how you connect with whatever you're striking or hitting. Okay, if you have something like a tree, I suggest if you have something that's sentimental, like see like these nunchucks here, these are the first set that I ever got. I made my first set. My first mentor said that if I was so intent on learning how to use the nunchuck that I was going to make my own set at like 8 or 9 years old, that he would start teaching me. So he gave me his first set, which he got from his mentor, that mentor got it from their mentor. Now whether that mentor was one of two semi-famous martial artists, that part's not clear. The only thing I know that for certain about these is that they were once belonged to a person who was both a disciple of Yamamoto and some other Kempo person. But anyways, like so Yoshikai and Kempo, that person was studying both. So was my mentor. Okay, so, and that's just mentioning other martial arts that I have come across early on in training. That is the history behind these. Now, if your set is sentimental to you, I suggest that you don't go beating up your nunchucku on like a wooden dummy or a metal dummy or anything that could damage your nunchucku. Like it can get damaged. An alternative is to find something like a tree with low branches, and you could practice striking at the target. Now there's some movements that don't have the application of striking someone with it. Like some people think that this move here is to hit someone with the very end like that. That is a good way to explain how to do the technique. However, that is not the application. The application, if you can see, the application is to catch a weapon such as someone's arm or whatever weapon they are using. It is like a thrown out catch from here. It can go to here and come back, or it can come out here to a catch. Okay, so working on your timing, you can also work on just simply doing like when you first start on working on your timing, and that is what that's called right there, how you connect with the target. Start by just simply taking a step, like sidestepping or circle stepping around your target, and just doing a simple downward strike and returning. And you could even work on doing a downward strike and returning and hitting the same target. Moving around, and you could definitely do a number. I'll try to make sure this video stays where it's at. Okay, once you get that part down, you could also start doing spins as you step, and that is a good exercise to work on doing your timing. Okay, so if you've watched the video so far, you should probably hit like hard like a ninja and subscribe to my channel to be alerted for when I do videos on YouTube. And you can comment on this video. Feel free to check out my other videos. Like, comment, subscribe, share. And I'm on Facebook under my artist name or my 10th Ninja name, Mel-L. That's M-E-L-E-O. And I have an Instagram, but I'm not telling you what my Instagram name is. You'll just have to be ninja and go figure that out on your own. Okay. I also covered some other techniques on my most previous video for the 0 to 4 foot threat range. And that application is if an opponent had stepped in and tried to disarm you, as what the spins across the knuckles are actually practicing. If someone had stepped in to try to disarm you and close the distance of the advantage that you have with a very long weapon with reach, at that 0 to 4 foot threat range, which is basically as far as you can reach with your hand, and they somehow managed to attempt to disarm you and you wound up in this position here. In my previous video I covered the technique where you basically do this and I gave the application. Now in this one I will also mention that you could simply come across the top and do a strike this way, right? If they had ducked out of it and stepped back. Okay, you could also still use a nunchucku more similarly to a kubo tan at this point. Or say your nunchucku broke in the middle of a fight. You still have a weapon that you are familiar with how to use. Now I will cover some more with a whip chain in this video. Hang on, I'll set this here. Okay. That did not help. We'll move this. Okay, so if you happen to come across a weapon that is similar to a nunchucku in a real fight, because it's not likely that you're going to be carrying this around when you get into a fight, but if you happen to come across a weapon such as a chain, and it's kind of important to already be familiar with some of the basic stops on a chain before you go from nunchucku to chain. But if you were going straight from nunchucku to chain, the moves that you should probably already know is the diagonal strike and how to return this way. And the same application of wrapping up an opponent is still applicable, as this move here being a very simple move, right? being a very simple move, has an application in a fight. Say my opponent had ducked in to close that distance and I had wrapped this around the back of their head, I'm now in a position to give them a neck crank. For details on that, you should probably go check my other videos. Okay, but those same applications apply with a chain. The very same movement, which is just like a flail, or some people call it a whip and nae-nae. But the same application is exactly the same. Okay, also, if you have a chain, the same moves that you have with a chain, at this point understanding that it is a fluid weapon, some of those basic moves you should be able to do. Also, if you happen to have two of them and you're familiar with double nunchucku, the applications are the same in that aspect. If you're dealing with a longer chain, the applications are a bit different, as I will demonstrate. This. Okay, before you start getting into using a longer chain, and I'll remind you that training with a chain is better to begin with a rope with some weight on the end, as a rope is more forgiving than a chain. And if you train with a chain, you might want to make sure that you're training outside or around someone who can see you in case you get tangled up. You have someone who could call an ambulance for you, because you have no idea how long you might get stuck there. Okay, so you should already know some of the ways to stop a chain, and there are details on that in my other videos on the whip chain. So once you have already become familiar with how to stop a chain, which is also how to disarm someone with a chain, then you start getting into some of the moves that are mostly applicable with a chain. Okay? And of course, some of the basic moves like a figure eight is exactly the same as the nunchucku. So the weapon is only slightly different. Okay. If you start off with the chain behind your back, this is not very practical in a real fight, as you are basically giving your opponent your own leash. That is not a good idea. And if you're making a chain on the spot to use in a fight, if it were a real self-defense situation, you might want to put weight on the end. You might have to do some ninja arts and crafts on the spot, right? And there's several ways that you can begin using a chain. You should start with a length of about from your shoulder to your arm. If you're using a thick chain like this, you basically have just the basic figure eights, the diagonal strikes. Okay, you have a strike and return. Okay, you also have these stops that you should know how to do, because you have watched the videos and seen how to stop. Okay, but if you have a longer chain or a mess of a chain and you simply double it over, you have a weapon that could be improvised similarly to a nunchucku, which is basic strikes, basic diagonal strikes, basically returns, and you should also be familiar with how to step and strike. Okay, so moving back to nunchucku, and in my other video I cover a lower body technique, lower body strikes. When you start getting into the timing and using lower body strikes at the same time, or a kick followed through with, or a lower body strike followed through with your timing, that is getting more advanced. It's more than just standing here doing very slow, very easy strikes. And it is more applicable in a real fight than tricking, which a ninja trick would probably be to just throw the nunchucku at them and then let them know that a real shinobi doesn't need the weapon. So, anyways, you can share my video with people who are ninja, but not with people who ought to be ninja, because they might accidentally learn something. So until next time, my friends, stay ninja.